Hey, welcome to my non-objective opinion on People's Radio United. This is Tim Best Buds, your host. Today's show is going to be a two-parter from the archive. The first interview is going to be with Tara Houska, which originally aired September 9th, 2015. And that interview is all about Not Your Mascots. And then the second interview later on is going to be with Nolan Hack, about Native Genocide, and that actually aired January the 30th, 2016. So we're going to get it started. I'm going to play a track by Superman called Why, and then we're going to go straight into the Tara Houska interview. So enjoy the show, guys.
Why is one man rich and another man poor? Why we ain't satisfied? Why we gotta have more? Why your suicide rates on the rest so high? Why I tell you the truth but you say don't lie? Why is being a good father at an all-time low? Why is it acceptable? Yo, why I don't know. Why she blame him and he blame her? It's useless. Ask yourself this question. Why you making excuses? Why do parents gotta bury their kids? Why we text and drive, not caring how scary it is? Why it's so hard to forgive and leave the past behind? And if you did, then that's divine. Why don't you help your brother when you see him fall? Why do we act like God don't see it all? Why do we call them black, them white, them Asians and use labels? Now that's racism.
I don't wanna hold name. I don't wanna hold name. Why? I don't wanna hold name. I don't wanna hold name. Why? I don't wanna hold name. I don't wanna hold name. Why? I don't wanna hold name. I don't wanna hold name.
Why is there innocent people locked up for life, while some people can't say nothing nice? Why do we always gotta question what all of it means? And why won't you follow your dreams? Tell me why. The night when you took my dad, why'd you let me see my grandpa cry? And tell me why. And why do you choose to hide, even though you was born to fly? And tell me why. And why don't we turn from all the hate? And why don't we learn from all mistakes? Why do I keep on wrecking these fat beats? And teachers don't make more than professional athletes? And why? And why? And why? And why? And why? And why?
I don't wanna hold name. I don't wanna hold name. Why? I don't wanna hold name. I don't wanna hold name. Why? I don't wanna hold name. I don't wanna hold name. Why? I don't wanna hold name. I don't wanna hold name. Why?
Hi, we're here with Tara Houska of Not Your Mascots organization. How you doing today, Tara?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm fine. All right, let's get started. Could you tell us about you, the Not Your Mascots organization, and what you guys are trying to accomplish?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a citizen of Couchiching First Nation. I'm from Minnesota and on the borderline of Canada. I'm a tribal rights attorney, so I represent tribes throughout the United States. And I'm located here in Washington, D.C. And our organization, Not Your Mascots, is a nonprofit that's dedicated to basically educating and telling the public about the harms of Native imagery that's used, like stereotypes and caricatures in the media and through sports mascots.
Okay. A lot of people watching this today might not know about any of this or may think it's just about a couple of sports teams or something. Can you elaborate on what mascots are harmful and why they're harmful?
Yeah, sure. So, a lot of times we hear that mascots are just kind of no big deal and it's a PC kind of issue that people are being overly politically correct. But really, mascots are a representation of a race of people being caricatured. To me, the fan behavior you see at the games is no different than seeing blackface. So, we've gotten rid of minstrel shows and we know that you should not dress up as African Americans anymore. That's a really, offensive, racist image of them. But yet they do the same exact thing with Native Americans, Halloween costumes, sporting events, whatever, people putting on these fake headdresses, painting their faces and doing this. And it's like, they don't understand why they don't understand why I'm offended by that. And that to me just, doesn't make any sense. And furthermore, for Native mascots in particular, there have been several psychological studies by the American Psychological Association that have actually shown empirically that mascots are harmful to the self-esteem of Native American children. And since Native American children are, the second highest leading cause of death is suicide because of the self-esteem issues of Native people, it's, to have that out there and know that it's harmful, it just doesn't make any sense to me. It's a very easy thing to change.
Yeah, well, why do you think it is that people who would be appalled and really upset to see a minstrel blackface show don't get as upset about this, or at least don't speak up about it?
I think it's because it's been such a long practice. At one point, especially when these Native American mascots were really kind of coming into play, like, the Washington team named itself, Cleveland Indians, like all that stuff. That was when our population was down to 250,000 people in the entire United States. And that's from millions, right, at first contact. And so we really were almost an extinct people. And so that's kind of when these, the Boy Scouts and all that stuff kind of started appropriating Native culture at the same time that they were getting rid of pretty much the rest of us, right? They were shoving children into boarding schools, taking their culture away. It was actually illegal for us to practice our religious beliefs at the same time that, the Boy Scouts were kind of appropriating that and turning it into like a ceremony of their own. And so I think because it's had such a long history, it's really hard for people to understand that this is actually offensive, because now there are 5 million Native Americans. We didn't die out. We're still here and we're ticked. I mean, it's like, come on, man. Like, you shouldn't do that. You can't do it with any other race, but you do it with us on the regular.
Yeah. Well, how has non-Native reception been toward what you guys are doing? Do you have like a lot of support?
I think it's kind of here and there. Sometimes we get support, sometimes we don't. A lot of times I see a lot of pushback from fans who just have never thought about it before. And that's really the case for most people. When they see a Halloween costume and you see Gwen Stefani wearing a headdress or whatever, they just really have honestly never thought of it before. And that's because they probably never met a Native American person before. But now we're on social media and you can click and talk to hundreds and hundreds of Native Americans about these issues. And it's kind of like, once you know, then it's kind of on you. You know what I mean? And so I just think we're at a place now where other people should be becoming more aware of what's going on. One thing that's actually really hard here in Washington, D.C. is, there's a very large African-American population here, and that's the team. And so I think for them in particular, I get a lot of pushback because they're people of color too, and they really don't want to be associated with something that's racist. And they've just never thought about it before, but they are really, I would never do that. I'm not racist. You just don't understand. That's what I get the pushback from people of color is I'm not racist, whereas I'm saying, well, what you're doing is.
Yeah. What do you have any other activist communities that are helping you, or groups that are working alongside with you, or?
Yeah, I mean, there definitely are some different organizations that have reached out that are not Native organizations. So the United Church of Christ actually just did a entire resolution across all of their branches nationwide to support us in our effort. There have been, multiple organizations, like small-time organizations, that have come out and said, this is wrong, we support you. And it really is just trying to get people conscious and aware and understand. We've had a lot of kind of cross between Black Lives Matter, the Black Lives Matter movement, and their support for realizing that Native Americans are also very much attacked by police, brutality, and die at the hands of police all the time. And so those connections are definitely being made between communities.
Yeah. What progress have you guys made? Team logos, maybe even holidays like Columbus Day. Like, has there been any progress so far?
Yeah. So actually, St. Paul just a couple weeks ago decided to get rid of Columbus Day, and that comes on the tail of Minneapolis doing the same thing. Seattle getting rid of it and replacing it with Indigenous Peoples Day. I mean, to us, it's like, you're celebrating a guy that actually was sent back to Spain in chains for crimes against humanity. Because, I mean, he killed hundreds of thousands of Indigenous people when, he landed in, the Caribbean. And it's appalling to me that we continue to celebrate someone that we know was not a good person in any sense of the word and, actively engaged in genocide. And that's celebrated and, thrown in our faces as we're, as Indigenous people. It's like, are you serious? How could you possibly celebrate someone with that kind of history?
Yeah, I never understood that myself. Why do you think there's so much resistance to this changing, like, the whole country changing the name, or a team changing the name? I mean, the whole country changing the name of a holiday, team change the thing to do.
I think that for a lot of people, what I hear the most is tradition. It's about tradition, it's about history and honoring that history. And, to that I say, we had a lot of traditions that are no longer okay. Minstrel shows being one of them, slavery being another. I mean, there are long-standing traditions in this country that we decided, hey, you know what, that's not the right thing. Jim Crow laws, those need to go. Dressing up as Black people and, caricaturing them, that needs to go. Doing racist representations of Asian Americans, like back when, breakfast activities, doing these over-the-top racial stereotypes, it's no longer acceptable. And so when I hear the argument of it's tradition, it's history, we need to honor that history, I think there are certain things in history that we do not need to honor. We don't need to celebrate somebody that committed genocide, for instance. That is, you don't see Germany having a Hitler Day, right? I mean, that's just not something you could ever do, ever. But yet in America, it's like, oh, well, I guess there were Indigenous people here, and I guess, we did kind of commit genocide on them, and Christopher Columbus was like the first guy that really kind of like set the high bar for it, but we're going to give him a day, like a federal holiday. That's insane. Yeah. I mean, and Andrew Jackson's on the $20 bill, like they just had this big campaign to change money, and we're going to change the 20, but now have elected to change the $10 bill. And Andrew Jackson is directly responsible for the Trail of Tears. I mean, that was his policy, was Indian removal, killing the Indians, getting them out of like their territories and taking what they had. And that guy, I look at him every day on currency. I mean, it's incredibly insulting, and it's incredibly demeaning to the Indigenous people that are still here. I mean, that's really the thing. We are still here.
Yeah, and they're not worried about preserving your traditions or histories, just some, ridiculous stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's it. I actually talked to a guy just last week that he was a very nice guy, very, very much like supportive of what we were doing, but didn't agree with us, and basically said, well, if we get rid of these mascots and stuff, everyone's going to forget about Native Americans. Everyone's going to forget about your culture. Everyone's going to forget that, Native Americans were here. And I stopped him and I said, you think of what you just said. You just said that Native Americans were here. We are here. We are here. And yes, we still have our culture. Yes, we still have powwows. Yes, we still have ceremony, tradition, language, culture. All of those things are still here. Just because you can't see them, that's your decision, but you should not think that doing a mockery of that is somehow preserving our culture in any way. That is absolutely not the case. That's what keeps us into this kind of static, historical, figure. Like, instead of, when I'm here in DC, I get asked all the time, do you live in a teepee? People ask me that because that's what they think. I mean, they really think those things because they just never encountered any representation of a Native American other than this historical riding on the plains, big headdress Indian. And that's what they think Indigenous people are. And that is absolutely not the case. And that's why it really, to me, that's why it matters. It matters because we are modern people and we have modern issues, and we have, poverty and, suicide, and we have lands that, are having serious natural disasters, all these things. But yet I'm going up on Capitol Hill and having to educate congressional members about what Indians are, because they don't think that we're sophisticated people. They think that, we live in teepees and things like that. I mean, that's a serious issue.
That's so. What do you think the average person like me or the people watching this could do to help?
If you want to support the movement, you can go to notyourmascots.org. You can go to NCARSM. It's NCARSM.org. You can go check out NCAI's materials, the National Congress of American Indians. And more so than anything, I think, you don't necessarily have to be an active member of the movement, but just the idea of educating and telling people about modern Native Americans makes such a huge difference. I think, that's really kind of one of the fundamental issues, is that in this country, you learn about Native Americans in school, right? You learn about Native Americans up to Manifest Destiny, and then we're dead. And there's nothing else after that, right? I mean, there are no Indians after that. And so from a very young age, people are taught that Native people don't exist anymore. And, that we are those static, noble savages on the plains, but that's just not the case. And so, Washington State actually just became the first state in the country to mandatorily include curriculum about modern Native Americans, about treaty rights, about reservations, about, the ongoing, tribal governments and tribal courts and all those things. And that's really what makes the difference, is people understanding and acknowledging that Indigenous people are still here today.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time, Tara. Thanks for coming on. I'm going to give you the last word. Is there anything you want to say?
I hope that people understand that this really is not about hurt feelings. It offends me definitely when I see people walking around in a headdress. That's pretty offensive. Or people, we did a protest at FedEx Field, right? And I actually had people pointing at us and saying, "Oh my God, look, real Indians! Look at that one! Look at that one!" I mean, we were literally kind of like a zoo to them, like a sideshow, and that does hurt. I mean, it definitely hurts. But at the same time, the reason why I engage in this movement and the reason why a lot of us are concerned about this is because it's about dehumanization. It's about our children. It's about, protecting really vulnerable people that, just should not have to deal with caricature and dehumanization in 2015. This is 2015, and we still think it's okay to dress up as someone else's race. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, I guess people need to spread the word, and I'll post the link so they can go ahead and follow you and your organization. And I appreciate you coming on the show.
I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Okay, we're back with my non-objective opinion on People's Radio United. That was an interview with Tara Houska about Not Your Mascots, which originally aired September 9th, 2015. And now we're going to move on. The next interview is going to be an interview with Nolan Hack about Native Genocide that originally aired January 30th, 2016. And we're going to lead you into that with What Makes the Red Man Red by Frank Wong.
Personally, I should prefer to see the Aborigines. And the Indians, too. Good. This should be the most enlightening.
What makes the red man red?
Teach them all about Red Man.
What made the red man red? What made the red man red? What made the red man red? What made the red man red?
Teach them all about Red Man. Red Man.
Your history books, your holidays, Thanksgiving lies and Columbus Day. Tell me what I know more than the teacher. Tell me what I know more than the preacher. Tell me why you think the red man is red, stained with the blood from the land he bled. Tell me why you think the red man is dead, with the fake headdress on your head. Tell me what you know about thousands of nations displaced and confined to concentration camps called reservations. We died for the birth of your nation. Hollywood portrays us wrong. History books say we're gone. You got a church, say we're wrong. We're from the earth, it made us strong.
For many moons, Red Man played pale-faced.
What made the red man red? What made
what's best for me. They kill my culture, America made a mess of me. You inherited everything we died for, and all we get is a goddamn mascot. Manifest destiny, arrest what's best for me. They kill my culture, America made a mess of me. You inherited everything we died for, and all we get is a goddamn mascot.
Red skins, red souls, red skins. For many moons, red man fight, fail face. Sometime you win, sometime we win. Red skins.
You made me red when you killed my people. Made me red when you bled my tribe. Made me red when you killed my people.
Savages, like savages.
A few Indians.
Savages?
Now you know why the red man red.
Hey guys, welcome back to my non-objective opinion. Today we're here with Nolan Hack. How you doing, Nolan?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, Tim.
Oh, no problem. All right, first of all, let's start off. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do as an activist.
Well, one of the biggest things I do is raise awareness, and especially for Native people who are constantly and continually erased in this nation. And not only this nation, also if you study a little further, South America too, because they did own both continents before Europeans came. And as a black man myself, I just try to, I guess, keep hope alive in my own heart, and maybe hopefully it reflects back at other people, because our voice, we have a voice. Native people do not have a voice. And at times for us and them, it gets pretty bleak. Like last week, a couple of Saturdays ago, Shiana McMillan, 16-year-old black girl, dies in jail in custody. And all the details coming out are shady as can be, as always with the police. And my heart just sunk. I was watching NFL playoff game, and I didn't even I wanted to turn the TV off and just scream. But that happens all the time. But what I try to do, I just try to do what I can to move us forward instead of being stuck in this second class, racist type of society. To me, what we have to do now is finish the job of what the civil rights movement did in the 60s. What Martin Luther King did, what Malcolm X did, what Stokely Carmichael did, what Angela Davis did, et cetera, et cetera. They did their best, and they set it up for us now. And after Martin Luther King got killed, and Robert Kennedy, to his credit, the movement just stopped right there. And we've been treading water for, 50 years now. So to me, it's like, and I have to give Black Lives Matter all the credit. They kind of restarted this whole thing after Twitter and Facebook showed how bad the death by cop is. It's been this way forever. You go back to after slavery, it's been like this forever. It's just now we have cameras in our phones and we show everybody. So yeah, that's basically my goal and message at the same time.
So let's talk about, you have a march coming up, the We Want Freedom March.
Yes, that is in February the 17th through 19th, 3 days in New York at the United Nations. And I was racking my brain trying to figure out how to do something big to push the movement forward. And that was last fall. And I couldn't, we were marching everywhere. We still are. As a majority, we haven't given up hope, but we've kind of been stuck in neutral the last number of months, and the cop killings haven't gotten any better. They haven't gone down, and neither have the arrests or anything else. So I kind of remember what Malcolm X was going to do before he got killed. He was going to go to the UN and try to get them to charge the United States with human rights violations against Black people. And then I started thinking, well, yeah, that's a good idea, but there's another side of that coin. Native people are still here. There's still 5 million of them, over 5 million in the United States, and they're going through a genocide that nobody knows about. And they're killed by cops more than we are. The hate crime stats are a little hard to read because crimes against natives on the reservations are so hard to track, because it's like a different country almost in terms of, U.S. law versus, native reservation law, and in terms of law enforcement and all that. But natives and Blacks are killed by hate crimes more than anybody. So they need help too. And one thing that's really bugged me the last couple weeks, the Flint water crisis thing. I mean, yes, Flint needs all the water they can get, and I support them as much as I can. And I mean, for goodness sake, water is a human right, But at the other side of it, I'm looking like, well, we got hundreds of native reservations with the exact same problem, and it's been happening for forever, and no one's talking about it. So I'm like, well, do they matter? But they don't matter, but the people in Flint matter. I mean, it's just messing with my brain, and it's been annoying me. I'm like, human beings are all equal. We're not supposed to single anybody out. But that goes to the whole point of Native people are erased all the time. One very wise woman, Dolores Schilling, who hosts a wonderful show, Native Trailblazers, with her husband, Vince Schilling, she told me something really profound a while back. She said, in order for our lives to matter, she said, people have to realize we're still here. Many people do not realize that Native people still exist. Some people think they're all dead, and extinct. So a lot of it is just pure, unadulterated propaganda and erasure of Native people. And that's one big part of the march. To put this genocide, which, you look at the definition of what the UN defines as genocide, the U.S. is still committing 4 of those atrocities against Native people, killing members of the group, they're doing that, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, they're doing that, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. I just learned this recently. Native children in South Dakota are sold to white families. They are kidnapped and sold to white families for cash. So that's happening as well. And then deliberately inflicting on the group's conditions of life calculated to bring about physical destruction in whole or in part. Anybody who knows anything about how the native reservations came about, they were built to kill off the native race. Just that's how they were built. Adolf Hitler looked at how America was treating these people with the reservations and then, I could use that for the Holocaust. And if anybody watching doesn't believe me, look it up. So 4 out of the 5 is still going on here. The one that thankfully isn't happening anymore, so far to my knowledge, is the sterilization, the prevention of births within a group. That did happen. They did that to them for years and years and years. In fact, George H.W. Bush, our 41st president, when he was in Congress, he enacted the Family Planning Act, which saw to the sterilization of over 3,000 Native women. He never went to prison for it, but right now, 4 of those 5 pillars of genocide that the UN defines as genocide is being inflicted on Native people by the United States. So one of the big goals is just to get that into the mainstream, get that on people's TV screens, on the phones, on the computers, worldwide and nationally. My father, he was in the civil rights group when he was in the 60s. He was born in the 40s, but he marched in the 60s. He was a Black Panther for a very short time. And he taught me something that will always stick with me. One thing that turned the tide in the United States to make people finally wake up to see how bad racism was to Black people was the images on the TV screens. All the dogs, just being sicked on Black people, all the hoses blasting on Black people, the church bombings, the cross burnings, the whole deal. And people were forced to make a decision. They go, okay, well, do we like this? Do we like this racism? Sadly, there are people still then and now that still want that. Or, well, we need to stop this, and this is horrible. And that's what I'm trying to do with all my body, mind, and soul, is to get that out there, to force people to make that decision about Native people. And one thing I always try to stress to my people is Black people need to help Native people. We need to connect with them because they don't have a voice. We have BET, we have TV One, we have Oprah, we have LeBron James. We have voices. They don't have voices. If we use our voice to help them, it can do wonders. And I'm inviting anybody who supports equality, but especially any Black people who want to support Native people. I implore my people to do so. Come to New York, February 17th and 19th, and march at the United Nations to show the world that Native people, Black people, Asian people, everybody's equal. I mean, people can say that, the whole, well, race doesn't matter. This, that whole white liberal type of, fake progressive thing. But if that's true, well, we need to prove it. You can't have, redlining is still going on. Black people are still, Black and Hispanic people are still, banned from owning good homes. Black people are still killed by the police. Native people are still killed by the police. Hispanic, if you know what's going on in this country, racism is huge. Donald Trump may become the president of the United States. That's all you need to know. Of course. Exactly. So, I don't, and I'll be honest, I don't expect the UN to completely fold and to go, okay, United States coming into court. But I do expect to put some pressure on them, because you're talking about an organization, and it was built in 1947, after the couple years after the biggest war in the history of the world. It was formed. Everybody has a human right to exist. Everybody should have a good quality of life, and that's wonderful. The problem is they pick and choose who they care about. Okay, they're friends with Saudi Arabia, for goodness sake. In Saudi Arabia, they execute more people than ISIS, for goodness sake. So at least to put some pressure on them, I do believe we will. Just to go, hey, you guys say genocide's bad. Everybody should exist and have a good quality of life. Well, okay, well, prove it, because I'm Black. I got dark skin. I'm not looked as good as that lighter skinned person. That white person. And I really truly believe it could do a lot of good and put a big dent in American racism, and really just push the movement forward to full equality for everybody. Blacks, gays, women, transgenders, everybody.
Yeah, I did an interview with a couple interviews back with Tara Houska. She's a Native tribal rights attorney, and
she's wonderful.
Yeah, exactly what you were saying. She was saying it's a lot of it's ignorance. Like this, the thing that people would say, oh, we have to, the stereotypes show people that you were here. And she said, we're here, we are here. And she has to go up to Congress, and people ask her if natives live in teepees and things like that. It's like ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And they're dead serious. So yeah, it's an issue people need to be aware of more. So I recommend on pushing forward with it.
It's It's astounding. It's just I always knew something was wrong, and they've been done wrong, and the whole Columbus coming in 1492 led to something bad, but I had no idea until within the last year how bad the genocide was and how bad it still is. And I'm still learning every day. I've learned something new. Oh my, this too. One thing I just learned is Native women, and this made sense considering if you know anything about the missing or murdered Indigenous women in mostly Canada and the United States. Native women are stalked more than any other race of women in the United States, and the stat is 17% of Native women are likely to be stalked in their lifetime. Only 8% of white women are likely to be stalked in a lifetime. So more than double. But there are so many stats like that out there. It makes your head spin. But that's the whole point. The genocide.
0% of any women will be stalked in their lifetime.
That's an ongoing concern. Sexism isn't taken seriously, which is a shame. The genocide, the Native genocidal rabbit hole is so deep, and we got to start looking through it and figuring out how to fix it. You can't have Native reservations anymore. Those things are concentration camps. Most of them don't have clean water, let alone internet access. Any luxury isn't even a thought, if we really believe people are going to be equal, we got to start acting like it and take serious action.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. People who can't make it to New York or can't afford to get there, who might want to be there, what can they do to support this and to help out?
Sure, yeah. Just get the word out as best you can. If you have any friends or family, anybody who'd be interested, who live in the Northeast of New York, just let them know about the protest. Our Twitter is at We Want Freedom 16. That's at We Want Freedom 16. 16 to represent the year 2016. And there are Facebook event pages on there. So if you wanted to sign up with your Facebook, say I'm going to the event, the protest. Just notify whoever you can. And this, I know this. I'm not trying to. The whole. I think with the social media, the whole activism thing's gotten too political, too superficial. No protest is better than the other and things like that. But all I'm trying to get across is this one. I've been planning this one for months, and it's going to be at a world famous place, and it can really open some eyes, and I believe with my whole heart this could really, really do something positive for my people, Native people, and the country as a whole.
Okay, and then beyond the march, after the march, what do you think people can do to keep this going?
Well, I have my own ideas in my head rolling around for after mid-February of things that I want to do and I think I need to do to push the movement forward. One thing, if you're talking about Native people, that we have to stop right now is the Mascot thing. I've been a football fan since I was in diapers, and as growing up, I had no idea, and I'm not going to use the word Washington, the R word. I had no idea what that word meant. I had no idea how much that stunk. To me, honestly, it's as bad as the N word, because the word was created when white people were scalping Native people. When he's cutting parts of their heads off. So that's about as violent and disgusting and horrid as you can think of. And that's the birth of the word, So it should never be said. It shouldn't be on a logo with a Native man. What in the heck is that? Every time I look at it, I might come on. And it's not just, you got the Cleveland Indians, plenty of high schools, middle schools with Native mascots, Florida State Seminoles, just go on and on. And that has to stop. You can't have, it's like having teams like the Kansas City Jews or the the Columbus Chinese or Chinaman or something. It's like
well, let me ask you what I asked Tara Houska. Why do you think it is that the same people that would be appalled by a minstrel blackface show are kind of and care about a red face, kind of those mascots? Or
yeah, it's a good question. It's a big part of it is they're dehumanized, and we have bought into that. Perfect example is Pocahontas, the Disney movie. Mel Gibson was in it. And growing up, yeah. Well, you think about that. Oh, it should have been a red flag. Yeah. Growing up, I saw the movie just like every other kid. I loved the movie. It's like, oh yeah, the white people, native people. But when you learn the real story of what happened to Pocahontas, it is literally a 180 from the movie. She was 9 years old. She was raped. She was kidnapped. She died because of their thievery and kidnapping. And I mean, and you're going to tell me this movie is universally loved. It is a beloved movie in the United States, and it romanticizes pedophilia, rape, murder. What the natives went through when their land was being taken and the Trail of Tears and everything. You're romanticizing that. It's one thing if you're being honest about it, and 12 Years a Slave. I don't know one movie of late, and I include The Revenant because I've asked Native people about it. A lot of them this is dehumanizing us, fetishizing us, putting us in the background like we don't matter. I don't know one Native film of late that actually paints them as human beings. Like, okay, they're people, and white people are people, and we're all people. If someone wants to point one out, I'm all ears. But the point being, that's how they're treated. When you talk about a group for so long and it gets in people's heads, and you read coloring books as kids and movies like Pocahontas, you start to believe that. You start to believe that, well, I guess they're just kind of like magical fairies who, like you said, live in teepees and the powwows and all this. We're just going to use their words and not knowing what it means. And we treat them as mythical creatures, not human beings. So when you do that, they just take whatever team you want to, the Charlotte Hornets or the Washington Wizards or something. Oh, wizard, yeah, okay, it's not a real person, or Hornet's an animal, so who cares? But Native people they're people. They're a race of people who exist in this world like everybody else. And then, but we don't think that way. We just think of them as like fairies and pixies and mythical creatures, which, I mean, it's the way it is. It's sickening, but it's that dehumanization. It's that native erasure that is so prevalent. I mean, it is astounding. And I get all the time. I get trolls every day on my Twitter, and a lot of them, when I talk about Native issues, they're like, "Oh, come on, it wasn't genocide. They all died from accidental disease, and they could leave the reservation whenever they want," and all this ridiculous stuff. But that is that type of institutional racism that has been taught to us since 1776. Well, even before that, it was America. America was America in 1776, but basically since Columbus in 1492. But that would be my answer. Just we don't treat them as human beings.
That's horrible. Well, what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna give you the last word to say whatever you think, anything we might have missed or not want to say, or just re-amplify the march again.
All right. Thank you. One thing I'd like to say is, if you do believe in equality, and you're not of the oppressed race you're talking about, like me as an example, when I talk about Native people, I always try to make sure the facts whatever I'm saying is on point, and I'm not stepping. I'm staying in my own lane. I'm not stepping on any toes. I don't know anything about, powwow or, a rain dance or anything. I didn't grow up with that. That's not my culture. I'm not going to try to emulate that or do like the whole headdress thing during Halloween. Don't do that. Don't paint your face black to be, Bill Cosby or whatever the hell Don't dress up. What was it? Heidi Klum dressed up as a Hindi deity. If you don't know about it and it's not your culture, just stay away. And that's been a part of this culture forever. We steal, and not just white people, we'll steal from other people's cultures and make it our own. It's one thing when it's if you're talking about music or something we can all enjoy. It's another thing if it's an integral part of that race's or people's culture. And then another thing is just accept that there's still a lot of racism. We have a lot of trash to clean up. Okay, we need to stop saying, "Oh, it's 2016, so how could this stuff exist anymore?" Well, look, I have news for you. It may be 2016, 1956, 1976, 2006. This country is still very racist, and taking myself out of the equation as a black person, sexist, homophobic, transphobic. We have a lot of work to do. We don't treat other people that aren't our own with enough respect. And one thing I always try to figure out in my head, like when white people came over to Africa, what tipped them off to go, we got to enslave these people? A lot of it's fear. When you don't understand something, and I had my own problems with this growing up, talking about gay people or queer people or trans people, if you don't understand something, a sad part of the human condition sometimes is, oh, I'm afraid, so I don't like that. Well, if you're talking about another human being and they're not harming anybody, especially if they're not doing anything to you, let them be who they are, especially if they're born that way. If they're a trans person, that's who they are. Sorry, you can look that up in a medical book. If they're black, okay, they're black. If you learn about their history, learn about our current reality. And especially, and since we're mainly talking about race and the We Want Freedom March, Native people, I beg anybody watching, learn about the history, and I'm not talking about your history textbooks from high school or middle school. Throw those out. Learn about their history, the real history. Learn about the real current reality, because it's the opposite of what you think, and it will completely change your worldview and your mindset. And some of it's obviously tough to take, but this can be a very tough world. But it's for the better. The more you know, the more open you are to the rest of the world, good or bad. And this is the way it works. And in terms of the march, anybody who has the means to come, anybody who has the time, please definitely come out, march with us, protest with us, show the world, show the country that everybody is equal, that Black lives truly matter, that Native people are still here, that genocide is not okay, that human rights violations are not okay. And come to New York, February 17th through 19th, through the 19th, 17th through the 19th in February, New York at the United Nations. And hey, for one, you're going to be in New York. You get to at least check out the beautiful UN building. You get a hot dog, get a press, go see a show after the protest. So there will be some definite fun involved, even if we're not talking about the protests. So definitely, I implore anybody who is interested in social justice and equality to come out.
Cool. I appreciate you coming on the show. You guys should follow, what is it? We Want Freedom 16 on Twitter.
We Want Freedom 16 on Twitter. My Twitter is at Nolan Hack, NOLAN HACK.
Yeah. That'll be right next to you. So they'll see your Twitter right there.
Cool.
And you can get We Want Freedom 16. And the march is February 17th to the 19th.
Yes, sir.
All right. So be there, and if you can't be there, go ahead and amplify it. Let everybody know they need to be there, whoever's around. Thanks a million, Nolan. Much respect.
Thank you, Tim, for the free promotion for the protest, and good conversation. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you. I'll talk to you soon, man.
All right, most definitely. Take care.
All right. All right, that's it for today's show, guys. Thanks for listening. Please follow Tara Houska. Please follow Nolan Hack. Follow Not Your Mascots. Get involved with these organizations. Help people. In numbers, if we're united in numbers, we're powerful. So get involved, join the fight, and let's get some justice for once. All right. Thanks for listening, guys. See you next time on My Non-Objective Opinion on People's Radio United.
There was a time as a Native person in America, I mean, obviously we went from being the only people here to where we became the enemy of the people who came to take it away from us.
Guess I gotta be the one, Guess I gotta be the one, Say hi like I'm Jewy from the 90s, Southwest Detroit, Turtle Island, right where you find me, and I'm sick of all the bullshit. Every day is something different, the conditions that we living in. Babies gotta eat, gotta hustle for the dividends. No live in the street, might wind up in the riverbed. The truth, I'm a cater. The government to kill you, but you gotta watch out for your neighbor. Man, we gotta wake up, we be killing each other. You're looking at him like your enemy, he really your brother. Oh man, it's all part of their plan. Kill the soul, keep the man. Kill the Indian, keep the land. You in between a rock and a hard place, and they Scarface trying to expand. Ghettos in the reservations, bloody meadows in the concrete jungles with drugs peddling rotation. Poverty up to starvation, failed extermination. The streets of damn West Craven. From the projects to Baltimore to Watts to Pine Ridge, let mine live, the shit's gotta stop. Up in New York City, boy, they wanna stop and frisk. In Texas, get arrested and your ass won't exist. Unless you one of the good old boys, getting drunk, making good old noise, and then you good, homie. See some with the badges and the suits at day, and at night they throwing they white hoods, homie. Coming to you live from the ungentrified side of the D. We'll be right, they kinda lies your mind. Here we go as they play Say Geronimo on the radio. Whoa, no.
We only shop with ourselves. We only deal with ourselves. Until you do that, you are nothing but a bastard child of this country, and you will be treated as such. You love watching Game of Thrones. Oh, it's such a good... Oh, Khaleesi. She couldn't free them slaves until they got tired of being slaves. Harriet Tubman said, I have freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more had they only known they were slaves.
Look at us all dying in the streets, and people just replying to tweets. Up in the church for white Jesus, filling up all the seats, listening to the Lion Man just preach. Man, we got red hating on red, black hating on black. Both killed the most, but cops check the facts on that. See, wake the fuck up and take a permanent nap. What happens us, we need to be the ones determining that. Don't strike a deal with them, or ask for a handout. We did that before, and look how things panned out. No love for the treaty, fuck the Constitution. When we down by bullets and pollution, open up your eyes, can't believe them lies no more. I see chemtrails decorate the skies of the poor. Double genocide happening here. Divided states of propaganda, the captain of fear. The 60s all over again, but nothing changed. Remind me of the Black Panthers, the beginning to aim. 8 years ago, people thought beginning to change, but a puppet can't do anything on them strings. They don't like killing cops and haul they ass away. I don't see no justice for Paul Castaway. Murder Sandra Bland, put her name on the street sign, and expect for us to stay with that peace sign. See hope with a whole lot of rage. Rise up like smoke from the sage. Watch you through a scope, provide dope. Fuck the Pope, paper bulls ain't my kind of page. I'm moving through the hate. See, I feel like it's the right time for the like minds come together with a motherfucking mass plot. Listen to me when I say me and Native Keys and Nipkey Go Quay ain't your motherfucking mascot. Mascot.